Hello, I'm Dr. Terry Susan Fine, Content Specialist for the Florida Joint Center for Citizenship, which is part of the School of Politics, Security, and International Affairs at the University of Central Florida in Orlando. Welcome to our Middle School Civics Highlights series. Today we look at benchmark CG 3.1, analyze the advantages of the United States Constitutional Republic over other forms of government in safeguarding liberty, freedom, and a representative government. In Part 2, we focus on scenarios describing various forms of government. We're going to analyze scenarios describing various forms of government. What do scenarios describing various forms of government look like? We're going to be first focusing our attention on democracy, republic, and monarchy. In a democracy, as an example, some Native American tribes organize themselves by having all male adult members of the tribe vote to change the laws. Now, demos in the original Latin means people, and kratia or krasi means rule. So democracy quite literally translates to rule by the people. This means that in these Native American tribes, there is the approach taken that if a person is a male adult member of the tribe, then they are the people. They are the people who are governing on behalf of and for the sake of every member of the community. In a representative democracy, also known as a republic, such as in the United States, citizens elect representatives to the national, state, and local governments who then make decisions for the people. Now, in the United States, the elections take place at specified time periods. So, for example, at the national level, to be a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, those seats are up for election, as the phrase goes, every 2 years. That means that if a person is doing a great job as a member of the House of Representatives, they still have to stand for re-election if they want to continue serving every 2 years. What if a person's doing a terrible job as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives? Well, the U.S. House of Representatives can expel them or they can resign. But if they want to keep that job, all that requires for them to keep that job, unless the House acts to remove them or they themselves resign, means that they then need to go up for election. And the re-election rate of members of Congress is extremely high. It's over 90%. So this means that the House of Representatives, to be representative, must then go up for election every 2 years. And this is the entire U.S. House of Representatives. In the U.S. Senate, they serve for a 6-year term, but the Constitution is written in a way that only 1/3 of the U.S. Senate goes up for election every 2 years. So since there are 100 senators, about 33 to 34 U.S. senators then go up for re-election, or if they are retiring or resigning their seats, then that means other people need to wait until that 6-year term is over. So that means that every 2 years there are Senate elections, even though the senators themselves serve for 6-year terms. We see the same idea happening in the state of Florida, where the State House of Representatives includes individuals serving for 2 years, the State Senate includes individuals serving for 4 years, but half the State Senate goes up for election every 2 years, and then 2 years later, the other half goes up for election. In a constitutional monarchy, we see, for example, in the 20th and 21st centuries, that monarchs hold very little constitutional power. Real power is held by elected officials following a constitution. So, for example, in England, the Prime Minister has a relationship with the monarch, but that doesn't mean that the monarch has significant or meaningful power. Nonetheless, the Prime Minister consults with the monarch, and in fact, the monarch must formally invite the Prime Minister to serve as Prime Minister following an election. Let's look at some scenarios as they relate to oligarchy, theocracy, and autocracy. One example of an oligarchy occurred in 1215. Then a small group of wealthy, powerful men forced the king to share power with them in England. This means that people who held economic power also sought political power, and thus they forced the king to share that power with them. The Pope in the Vatican City is the Bishop of Rome and head religious leader of the Catholic Church. So Vatican City is actually a small carved out area in Rome, and the ruler of Vatican City is the Pope, who is the head of the Catholic Church. As we may recall, the Pope is chosen by other priests and other bishops and religious leaders. So even though the Pope technically holds political power, the Pope comes to that political power to rule over Vatican City based on the selection of religious leaders. In an autocracy, most leaders who started World War I, for example, were the few remaining absolute monarchs of Europe. In World War II, many who started the war were dictators, such as those in Germany, Japan, and Italy. So as we learn, both absolute monarchs and dictators are autocrats. And most leaders who started World War I and many who started World War II were autocrats. We think of auto as one. Some people like to think of an autocracy as an automobile, as a way of remembering it. How many people can drive an automobile at the same time? Well, every automobile comes with one steering wheel, and only one person can sit in what we call the driver's seat. And so a good way to think about how an autocracy is different from a theocracy or an oligarchy is that an autocracy, those are individuals who rule alone. They drive alone in their government automobiles, in their government roles, having absolute power. Thank you for joining me for Middle School Civics Highlights. Do you still have questions? If so, please contact us using the information that appears on the screen. Till next time, I'm Dr. Terry Susan Fine. Thank you for joining me.